couple of priests in the works right now that are kind of in the, there's a couple priests in the next, actually could be hopefully in the very near future joining us, and maybe 4 priests, but it could also be 0 out of those 4. And so we're working on a couple of them this week and the next couple of weeks. And then so it's a priest very close. And then also, as things get worse and worse, more and more people are getting, slowly but surely, just more and more people getting fed up. So this is one of those times. It looks like, we're going to be able to meet with one of the French priests who wants to be in the English-speaking world, Brother Pico. Should be able to meet him. Looks like he's going to come to the meeting in July, and that so he might actually, we don't know if he's going to come. His priest meeting in July the 15th and 16th in Havrier. My guess is there'll be maybe 30 priests, 20 or 30, maybe 20 to 30 priests in the meeting, and of course most of them Europeans, and a couple. Father Thomas Plant is going to make it from South America. We're trying to arrange Father Trincado to come in from Mexico. Then we'll be coming in from the United States, myself, Father Giselle, and Father Hugo. Father Giselle arrives in America this week. He may possibly come here in the month of July, but I don't know. And so Father Giselle may be coming through here.
Father Raphael?
Chazelle, Father Francois, Father Frankie Chazelle. Yes.
Is Father Raphael the Benedictine coming to the meeting?
I don't think so. He might be, but I don't think so. He's just going to stay in the monastery. Then, of course, Father Cardozo, important one, we're trying to get the meeting, but he doesn't like to travel, and he may not be coming. He's kind of a leader in South America, but we'll see. And the main thing we're focused on in the meeting is that we cannot have an ecumenical. I think there's 2 different directions. Some are kind of pushing for an ecumenical traditionalism, and so they want to make sure that if it goes in that direction, we make sure that the meeting turns into a war. So that we can't have ecumenical traditionalism. We can't have an ecumenical traditionalism. We just got to maintain the position of Archbishop Lefebvre, and that we can't. Because right now there's some priests. Because the temptation is because of the numbers. They want to look more impressive with the numbers of priests, and so if we add sedevacantists into the numbers, then it makes it look better. But it really gives a false perception, because they're just going to, they're all, one thing about them is that they're pretty much the same in that they only take care of their own little parish, and then of course you have, of course, a great variety of different breakdowns of opinions amongst them, and they're not in the position that we need, because it's in this great fight with the consecration of Russia, the Marian aspect. One thing we notice about all the sedevacantists in the beginning, when they first become that they call Lunum Nacum, which is one of the stages, it's steps. It's a process. There's many levels of sedevacantism, and at the lower levels, they still talk about the Lady of Fatima. They still, believe in the consecration of Russia and that. But then, as they progress in sedevacantism, then they drop that completely. They drop that whole consecration of Russia, and then all of a sudden they diminish Fatima, and we find it pretty much universal beginning. And so that with the error comes, every error has consequences, and if we cannot be ecumenical. So there's only one truth, and so the temptation is the priests get together. There'll be a few sedevacantist priests and a few non-unicum priests. The majority will be the priests of us, but some others will come through, and the temptation is going to be to try to say, well, let's keep everybody happy. You see, Bishop Fillet does that right now. He has many sedevacantist priests within the Society of St. Pius X. He doesn't worry about it so long as he don't cause them any trouble. And so, and one thing that's interesting, one of our arguments against the sedevacantist is that we notice how the sedevacantist within the society, Bishop Fillet has no problem with them, and Rome has no problem with them. So that Rome is not bothered with them, and Bishop Fillet is not bothered with them. And the reason so that these priests that are remaining sedevacantists within the society and not praying for the Pope of the Mass and publicly known by Bishop Fillet that they're not, that they're sedevacantists. You know, several of them in Canada, several in France, several in other parts of the world. They're all left alone because they're not a threat. You see, the threat to the crisis of the church, the threat to the devil's side is the truth. That's why Archbishop Lefebvre was a great threat. And now we're beginning to lose sight. It is the truth that has the power and not the numbers. Besides, we're very small numbers anyway. Even when you put all the priests in society, it's 570 priests, which is less than a whole bunch of dioceses, just one diocese. So the numbers of the society is very small anyway. And the number of traditional priests worldwide is very small. It always has been. But the impact has been very great only because of the truth. And so we already know the answers. It's not as though like the 1960s when they're fighting and trying to decide how wicked was this council. Certainly it was bad, but how bad was it? They didn't see all the full fruits of the council yet. But after seeing all the full fruits of the council and having a chance to study clearly the texts of the council and try to find any way of putting a Catholic interpretation on them, it can't be done. The council is non-Catholic. The council is anti-God. And the council is from Satan. And so can't play games with it. Now Bishop Fillet wants to play games with it on the one side and then accept the sedevacantists on the other side. And then at the same time, they accuse us of being sedevacantists. Well, if that's the greatest evil, then why don't you condemn the sedevacantists? And why don't you throw it? If being sedevacantist is the greatest evil, then why are you not throwing the sedevacantists out of the society? Why are you not punishing the sedevacantists? Why don't the sedevacantist priests be in positions of authority and the sedevacantist priests function perfectly within their parishes and have no problem? And then accuse us of being in danger of becoming sedevacantists.
That was in the Father Thiemann letter in the Regina Coeli.
Right.
There were 5 times they said sedevacantists, and
Right.
twice they said experiment in tradition.
Yeah. Right. The thing is, again, we all know it's not exactly like this is a new fight. So what the temptation is, when you get into a new stage of a fight, is to pretend like, oh, it's something new. It's not. There's nothing new under the sun. We just have to persevere in the teaching of the faith and go in the same direction. And we can't be ecumenical in this fight. And and so that's the one thing we're going to try to focus on in this meeting. And also, there are many faithful who are, we're learning more and more each day. There are many faithful and priests even who are following our little movement, but only because standing for the truth and standing for the position that tradition has stood for since the beginning of time, and especially in the last 40 years. And that is the Catholic faith, the Catholic truth. See, there's two human responses, which are normal, natural human responses to a crisis. One, forget about it, do what you're told, pretend like nothing happened. And that is the indult response. The other is rebel completely and shoot everybody you see. And that's kind of the sedevacantist response, right? A total rebellion. They kill them all, let God sort them out. Yeah. They're both normal responses. Somebody in that village killed my mother. I don't know. I'm just going to kill everybody in the village. I'll get one of them to God. And so it's even though it's a wicked response, it's a normal human response that has happened many times in history, and not only amongst Catholics but amongst all civilizations. It's a normal response that you can hate the general and then disregard his evil commands and obey them anyway because you don't want to get in trouble. Or the general has done wrong, so therefore you're going to murder the general. And so those are normal responses. At the time of corruption in Rome, remember in the last part of the Roman civilization, some emperors reigned for 6 months, some of them reigned for 2 months, some of them reigned if they reigned for a year, that was a really long reign. And so they just killed each other continuously. And you had this mix of kill the emperor and then be a slave of the emperor doing whatever he said. And so as a result, the slaves of the emperor trying to get in good with the emperor would be total slaves of the emperor. And then somebody would come along, kill the emperor, and then murder all the slaves, and then they would just rotate, going back and forth from a complete blind slave to murder the emperor. Blind slave, murder the emperor. Now you take that situation and apply it to the Catholic Church, the normal human response is, look, I don't like what the Pope is doing, but he's the Pope. I don't like what the bishop is doing, he's the bishop. I don't like what the pastor is doing, he's the pastor. I don't like what the father is doing, he's the father. I don't like what the owner of the company is doing, but he's the owner of the company. And so at all levels, just do the bad things he commands in order to not get in trouble but not liking it. That's very normal. So the thing about the sedevacantist position, besides the fact that it being an error, it lacks the supernatural perspective. And in our particular crisis, the supernatural perspective is essential. It's always been essential. But when you're in a heavier fight, there must be a recognition of the mystery of faith, and that there are some things we don't have a full explanation for. We don't have a full, complete, perfect explanation of the Blessed Trinity. We know that there are three persons in one God, and we know that there can be three angles in one triangle, and yet the Father, the first angle is not the second, but we can't give a perfect explanation of it. We can't give a perfect explanation of many truths of our faith. We can give some reasons, we can give some explanation to a certain extent, but we can't give a perfect explanation. And one of the challenges of the Sedevacantist is they want a perfect explanation of how it's possible for this man to be a wicked pope and still be the pope. But of course, we see the examples in sacred scripture. The greatest example is Caiaphas, and then secondly Peter. So those two examples are two clear examples, and they were both the true heads of the church. Caiaphas and Peter were heads of the same church to which we belong, and they both committed the most serious crimes that a superior can commit, which is denying Christ. When you're in charge of the Catholic Church, the worst thing you can do is deny Christ, which is what Caiaphas did and is what Peter did. They both did it. Of course, Peter repented, Peter came back, Caiaphas did not repent. And but they were both the heads of the church. And also, Caiaphas' removal as the head supposing Caiaphas was holy, and Caiaphas followed Christ, supposing he was a good guy, he still would have not been high priest on Good Friday, because the Old Testament was finished. So the Old Testament head had to be removed and replaced by a New Testament head. So even if Caiaphas was a good guy, he still would have ceased to be the high priest when the New Testament began, because there had to be a clear break between the New Testament high priest and the Old Testament high priest. So it's clear that it's a New Testament. If the same high priest switches from one testament to the other, it'd be hard to say that, well, it's like the communist rulers in Russia. They were communists, the wall fell down, and then they were Democrats. But it was the same guy in charge with the same machine gun and the same officers. He just pulled down the communist flag and put up a Democrat flag. So it's kind of hard to believe that was a genuine shift. So that, of course, Caiaphas was wicked, but even if Caiaphas was good, he would have lost his papacy by the death of Christ and not by his actions. And so likewise, that the new pope he will never lose his papacy because it goes to the end of the world. There's not going to be a New Testament. There's going to be another testament. But and so we just can't accept that error. And the consequence of that error is that by the fruits you shall know them, the fruits are not good. And they haven't been for the last 40 years.
And that's why they say sedevacantists are outside the church.
Well, no, not really. Because remember, every heretic is materially, so to speak, outside the church. Every error, but no. Because remember, to be outside the church, you can't secretly be outside the church. The sedevacantists want to be Catholics, and they're rejecting the Pope because they firmly believe that this man cannot be Pope. Now, it's a grave error, but that's all it is. It's a grave error. It doesn't make them cease to be Catholic. It doesn't bring them outside the church. Because to go outside the church, you have to knowingly know, just like it's the same problem the sedevacantists have. One of the problems of sedevacantism is they have to say the Pope is knowingly and willingly going against the church, when the Pope is very explicit that he's following the church. And he firmly believes he's following the church. Not only that, he's got his own training to back him up, because he was trained as a modernist. The modernists have been training Catholic priests for more than 150 years.
So he thinks what he's doing is right.
He thinks what he's doing is right, and he's got the backing of more than 100 years of Catholic teaching. He's got the backing. Remember, Vatican II was the end of the rot, not the beginning. For at least 150 years, modernists have been teaching in the Catholic Church, and they have been teaching that truth changes like evolution. They've been teaching that for 150 years, and that's why St. Pius X condemned it in 1907. He didn't condemn it in 1907 because this is a future problem. He condemned it in 1907 because it was already spread throughout the entire church. And he said the numbers of these heretical books and heretical professors is basically legion. That's in 1907. Now he tried to eradicate them. He did a good job of removing some of them, but that teaching still remained, and many of the books still remain. People pull out these old books, 100-year-old books that have heresy in them. These are the teachers of the present popes and present bishops. So they believe that these teachings, they're not teachings that come from the post-Vatican II. Only some of them come post-Vatican II. The majority of the principles that they stand on, the post-Vatican II popes, are all principles that predate the council. Truth changes. Since truth changes, there's no contradiction between believing in ecumenism now and the ancestors rejecting ecumenism before.
Hermeneutics.
And that's why continuity. That's where the word continuity. Continuity indicates that you can change. You know, you slowly change. Continuity doesn't necessarily mean things are identical. It can mean that there's a slow, change. And that's what Pope Benedict XV means by continuity. We don't have continuity. We have identity. The identical same faith taught by Christ is the identical faith we have today, not continuity.
Will Bishop Williamson be at the meeting?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, he'll be at the meeting, and and then I don't know how many priests are going to be there. Well, there's of course already the 12 priests that live there, so there's already 12 priests there, and then add another 15 priests or more, and
As Father Jean?
I don't know if I think Father Jean may be forbidden to be there. Morgon is collapsing right now. Father Chadel is going to try to visit Morgon, and we're going to try to visit them again, but they seem to have backtracked. So the Morgon is backtracked again. They made us I guess they backed down with a threat of Bishop Follet a month or two ago. So they seem to have backtracked.
For the withdrawal of ordinations? Or?
Yes, they're now. Our Bishop Follet withdrew the ordinations and everything from Avrier, the Dominicans. But Morgon, they backed down with a threat, and now they don't like what's going on, like they didn't like on before, but they're going along with it. Apparently. They're kind of in between, but apparently they backtracked. Father Chazel's brother, is there. And then, then of course I visited there a year and a half ago. I'm going to try to visit there again. But Father Jean would be the priest who would come and be there at the meeting if he comes. I don't know if he will.
Will Father Fresque be there?
Father Fresque?
Fresque.
No. And I don't even know where he is in France. Do you know what area in France he is? Okay.
Society priest.
He used to be here. Right. But he's somewhere that I don't know where he is. If there's a way of hunting him down, we'll try to, but we'll only be there for a couple of days. Because I'll also be going to Africa. I still got to arrange the details. They're trying to arrange, because there's a group in Africa that's been trying to get us to come in Nigeria. I'm not going to make it to Gabon. Gabon is another visit.
Father Dong.
Father Dong is in Gabon, and he's been in contact, but I lost my contact information. Father Dong, I don't know if Father Dong might be there, but I'm not sure if he's going to be there or not. There are many priests that will be able to come, of course. Right now, of the priests of the Resistance, there's about 70 or so. But it's it's hard to count exactly, because more priests are being ousted every day, every month, and they're kind of alone and looking for a place to go and looking for some kind of stability, and so. Right now we're trying to establish that. Father Pfeiffer and a couple of other priests in France are really going to try hard to establish some kind of a stable place for those priests to go. And that's going to be one of the purposes of this little meeting. There's going to be a double meeting to try to get things going in France, to look for some kind of
Father Liviatus.
Liviatus, he's a hermit. So he's with us, but he's hermit. He's in Cleveland being a hermit. Unknown location. Yeah.
Father Gruner?
Father Gruner is, now I think he's worried because of the apostolate struggling. So he has been supporting us. He still officially supports us, so to speak, but he's now, he kind of supports everybody. Yeah. He's kind of equal opportunity. He kind of supports everybody, He was a big supporter back in 2012. Since then, there's been a lot less,
He's downsized.
Yeah, he's struggling. And I think the reason why he's struggling is because a general lack of support of the SSPX is affecting him. See, he's supporting Bishop Fillet kind of at the same time. He was against Bishop Fillet, but I think now he's afraid to be more against. He kind of admitted to me before that he's had a drop in support in the last year, and that it's caused him to kind of be more nervous. Because he has a multi-million-dollar operation, and he has to receive tons and tons of income just to be able to keep going. And because of his multi-million-dollar operation, he can go belly up in a year. It doesn't take long for him to go belly up. See, because he has such expenses just to keep going. Because, publication, another problem is with the kind of work that he has, it costs millions and millions of dollars to print and make videos every year. And at the end of the year, you have absolutely, positively nothing to show for it. All you have is millions of dollars of expenses. And then if you want to do it again next year, you need to raise more millions of dollars to have more millions of dollars of expenses and nothing to show for it. Whereas, you don't have any, capital, or it's just money flow. So if he loses his support, he just collapses. No matter how many years he's been going, he only has to lose that support for a short time, and then everything collapses. So he's afraid of that. And I think that how John Venari is basically the mouthpiece of Father Gruner. So what John Venari says is what Father Gruner says. And John Venari now is, he's kind of supporting. They're trying to put a Catholic interpretation on Bishop Fillet's statements and actions, but it's not working. That's what they're trying.
Do you think we could get the remnant to speak for resistance?
Are you kidding?
I'm not.
Have you read it?
Yeah, it's all over the board.
No, it's not. It's just liberal. Not all over the board.
The thing about the seminarians down in Argentina.
I don't know the recent things that you mean Paulo?
Mm-hmm.
That's not in the remnant. What?
No, I wanted to.
They won't put anything like that in. Are you kidding? No, they're liberals, right? They promote the Fraternity of St. Peter, the Indulge.
They're worse than the Catholic Family News.
No, Catholic Family News is stronger, right? No, the Remnant and the Wanderer are the same now. They used to be against each other, the Matt brothers.
Yeah.
But now, no, they're basically the same. There's nothing Catholic about them, really. And it's been that way for a long time. At least more than 10 years, 15 years. It started to change after the consecrations in '88, and they just started to slowly get more and more liberal every year. They used to be very strong, but after '88, they started to first, they didn't fully approve the Fraternity of St. Peter, they just thought it was okay. And then they slowly became basically a mouthpiece of the Fraternity of St. Peter. I think Michael Mack goes to the Fraternity Mass. I believe he doesn't go to our Mass.
Well, yeah, what was that? Where does he go?
He goes to the Indo.
I don't know, but
he goes to the Fraternity of St. Peter. He goes to the Indo. He doesn't go to the society.
He has a St. Peter's priest when he has those conferences.
Yeah, it's always St. Peter, yeah. It's Fraternity of St. Peter. But I don't think it wasn't that way before, like 25 years in the 80s. But it is now. This slowly became that way at least in the 90s. I think at least 90s. It became that way. No, there's nothing Catholic about them. That stopped a long time. They used to be, but they changed. Just like the SSPX is doing the same thing. It's changed. The faith has changed. It's that simple.
Would you say Father Gruner might run some stuff for us?
In the past, maybe. Now, I don't think so.
No.
Right now, he's really worried about the change. And also, I think when Pope Francis became Pope, he had such a desire that Pope Francis consecrate Russia that his brain kind of turned off. When he was saying how great it was, and he walked out of the balcony, and he said, "Bless me." He forgot to bless the people. You know, Father Hugo was saying, don't forget to send the Pope your blessing, you know. Right? And he didn't even know he could bless the people. That was his first day on the job. He was bad the first day on the job, and Father Gruner was really reaching for, you know. And don't forget he's got Christopher Ferrara. And they all, see, that's what happened. In the beginning, they met for a conference, but they were separate groups. And then somehow they all became one group. Everybody's together in one group now. What used to be enemies, this one represents Catholic tradition, this one represents the fraternity of St. Peter, this represents, they're all enemies. And then they all started gathering together and everybody became buddies. And so now these you got the Society of St. Pius X, somebody from the State of Vicantas, the Indult guy, they're going to start putting Muslims, and everybody's going to be in there. And they're all going to be talking about conservatism. That's what's happening. And, we just can't have that, But in any case, so this week there's a few guys thinking about coming to the seminary. There was people passing through Kentucky there. Maybe some brothers and seminarians potential, and we're doing some little work and things prepared, and then we got to somehow make it over to Europe, and then it'll be during the month of July. Father Giselle and Father Hugo will be the ones traveling around. Father Giselle, the 13th Sunday, Father Giselle and I will be in England and Ireland, and then during the week in France, and then Father Giselle will come back here for that week of the 20th, and Father Hugo will also come back. So that it'll be the week of the 13th that Father Hugo will be saying Mass in Chicago and then flying over to France. And then we'll be in England and Ireland, Father Giselle and I. And then, because now we're also taking care of England and Ireland. We're looking for the priests to come and help. And we'll try to meet with the priests over there, a couple priests. We'll hunt down a couple priests over there, and we'll be hunting down. So in the next couple weeks we're doing some priest hunts. Also some seminarians, I think there's some seminarians also struggling as well. This is the time when seminarians get booted out of Winona. So there's a little bit of a shrinkage going on in Winona. It's a definite purge going on up there. Last few years have been a purge. I remember when I was there in 2012, my last time at ordinations, Father LaRue was very angry, and he made an announcement to the seminarians when I was there. One of the seminarians told me, he said, there's going to be a purge. He was really angry about something. I don't know what it was. It was the last time I was there. But he's already been purging for the last 10 years, so it's not like it's something new. So the method is, they don't tell you have to be kicked out of the seminary. They say you need to redo this class an extra year. You need to go do an apostolate in India, in Philippines. Go to a priory for a year, and you're supposed to leave on your own. You come back, okay, well, you're going to have to repeat a year, and then until eventually you figure out that you're not going to be ordained. And if you make it 2 or 3 years of that, then they say get out of here. But they don't tell you leave right away. They try to squeeze you out so that they can say, well, he left on his own. All I did was beat him every day. And so, but he left on his own. He left on his own. Who he left on his own? That's the method. And it's not exactly a new method. It's been around for a while. But that is the method.
Key position, rector of the seminary, and he's a ringleader of the modernist movement.
Father LaRue is definitely one of the main ringleaders, that's for sure. He's been teaching in the new teaching for many years now. And you see the new seminarians coming out with a new teaching for at least the last 5 or 6 years. It's been very noticeable. Very noticeable. They're talking, they're learning about the council, things I never learned about the council. I was in that same building they were in, but I didn't learn the same things that they're learning. They're talking about the new Mass being legitimate, canonically legitimate. Well, we studied the new Mass when I was there. There's nothing legitimate about it at all. It's illegitimate in every single aspect of legitimacy. We've studied canonical, what it means, what is meant in canon law by a legitimate law, technically, what's meant by legitimate in moral theology and dogmatic theology, and what the word legitimate means. And every single definition of it, the new Mass is illegitimate. But they're learning that, well, maybe technically it might have been. Also with regard to the council, they actually studied a couple of things. Like I asked Father, what's his name? He's from Virginia. young priest, starts with an M. What's his name? Father something. I met him in Poles Falls. He's stationed in Poles Falls, and he said, there's good in the council. I said, okay, well, tell me. It says the council enlightens and it deepens the faith. So I asked him last year with Father Tim, who was there visiting. I said, okay, well, show me something in the council enlightens and deepens the faith. Enlighten me. What part of that crappy council enlightened the faith? None of it. And he said, no, there was some good things there. I said, okay, come up with one. And he had an example. It was from what do you call it? It was the document on the liturgy, Sacrosanctum Concilium, I think. Whatever one it was.
Oh, you can use Latin, but you can't use Latin?
No. He said that it's better to give out Holy Communion. It's better to receive a host that was consecrated in this Mass than one that was from the tabernacle, because it's more spiritually significant or something. If you receive a host consecrated in this Mass, and to have hosts from the tabernacle is not as good. We were telling one of the faithful, they say, what happened? Does it go stale? I mean, this is ridiculous. You see, the priest consumes a blessed sacrament because it's a completion of the sacrifice. It's consuming the victim. Because the priest is consuming the victim, he has to have a host consecrated at that Mass. So supposing that somehow, I don't know, as I say, an animal comes, like suppose you say Mass, an animal comes and grabs the host or something, right? And then you don't have a host, that's the only host consecrated at this Mass. So during the Mass, say in Mass outside or something, an animal comes and takes the host. Then what do? Doesn't matter if there's host in the tabernacle. The priest has to consecrate another host, because he has to consume the host consecrated at this Mass in order to complete the sacrifice. He can't reach the tabernacle and consume a host consecrated at previous Mass. Why? Because it's a consuming of the victim and a completion of the sacrifice. But when the faithful receive Holy Communion, they're receiving the body and blood of Christ. They're not completing the sacrifice. It has nothing to do with the sacrifice. It's only an effect of the sacrifice. That's why even in your missal, there's nothing about Holy Communion to the faithful. It's not in the missal. You see a little red thing that says this is a good time to give Holy Communion to the faithful. It's not part of the Mass. We just stop the Mass. The server says the Confiteor, which is the ceremony for giving communion outside of Mass. You see communion outside of Mass. As soon as the priest opens the tabernacle, the server says the Confiteor. The priest turns around, says, says the prayers and the Annunciationem, gives Holy Communion, closes the tabernacle. That's the ceremony for giving communion outside of Mass. Now, during the Mass, we stop the Mass, give communion outside of Mass, and then continue the Mass.
No second Confiteor, no communion.
That's why there's a second Confiteor. The second Confiteor is not the Confiteor of the Mass.
The new Mass
It's the Confiteor of the faithful receiving Holy Communion. The Confiteor of the Mass is the Confiteor at the beginning, which the server and the priest said. The Confiteor at the end is not part of the Mass. It's a Confiteor for receiving Holy Communion. One of the problems of removing the Confiteor at the end is it says as if the first Confiteor was sufficient, which indicates that the communion of the faithful is part of the Mass, which is a lie. Communion of the faithful is not part of the Mass.
See? The liturgy, what little things can do?
See, it's not part of the Mass. That's why you look at the Missal, you have to see, that's the time you give communion to the faithful. See? And it says, give communion to the faithful at this time. See? Following the rubrics of communion outside of Mass, something like that. I'm going to have to pull it out, but it says, that the... and so, when the new Mass says it's better for the faithful to receive communion consecrated at this Mass, that's wrong. But Father McFarland, that's it, Father McFarland. Father McFarland, yeah, his dad's the guy writing on the internet all the time. Yeah, Father McFarland, he's the one. He says, no, it's better. And I was sitting there with Father Tim, I said, Father, listen to that crap. He goes, well, technically, maybe you can possibly, perhaps, consider it, maybe, perhaps, But the technically, maybe, perhaps doesn't work. And why are these guys looking for something good? It's just like when the Council of Trent condemned Martin Luther's writings, when they condemned in the Syllabus of Errors, they condemned Canal and condemned, what's his name, Jansenius and Bias and Huss. It didn't say, Huss had many good things to say. For instance, Huss believed in simplicity of clothing, because he ran around naked. And Huss was a man of simplicity. And Huss believed in Jesus. Isn't that nice? Huss was an evil heretic. And the church simply points out these are the errors that are condemned. It doesn't say this book also contains many good things. The church teaches you should not have condemned heretical books, and you don't read them. But every condemned heretical book has something true in it. The name of the author in the front, and some of the grammar is something about Christ, something about God, something about the devil. There's going to be a lot of truth in every heretical book. The book is burnt because of the single error.
So Vatican II is a lot of warmed up doctrine mixed in with heresy.
Yeah, it is, but it's actually happens to cover the heresy of modernism, which means it covers every heresy. So it's more than your average heretical document. It covers a lot of territory. And then, of course, it has the quote-unquote perhaps non-heretical portion is poison and mush leading to the heresy. It's favorum heresy. So that's even worse, because you say something partially true that only goes towards the error. And then, of course, the whole point of St. Thomas, when a liar lies, he says true things, but the purpose of the true things is to support the lie. Every liar does that. No matter what the lie is, he has to say many true things, which he uses as a support of the lie. So therefore the truth is corrupted, according to St. Thomas. Yes. Yes. Is it a good gumdrop? What if it's closed up like those little, you can clean it off. Yeah.
So we're infiltrated.
Oh yeah. And it'll happen again, of course, but we're not supposed to worry about it. That's the reason why God allows infiltration. That's not a problem. God is more powerful than the infiltrators. That's what he demands of us right now, real faith. Like Bishop Williamson says, they're going to infiltrate the resistance. Of course they're going to infiltrate the resistance. If they don't, it's okay, because we're dumb enough to screw things up on our own. So, but the fact is that that's the way the Catholic Church has always been. And that's the way Gideon was. That's the way the Old Testament heroes were. They also had many problems, and God overcame them by his divine power. God deliberately works with the weak in order to show his divine power. Now we know that's true because we read about it in the history of the church, we read about it in the sacred scripture, and we hear about it all the time in the history, but now we have to experience it in our own lives. When you're experiencing it in your own life, it just doesn't look the same as what you might expect. When you read about it in the books, it's got a nice veneer to it, even the wickedness. But in the real life, it doesn't. We're living the real history of the church right now, and we are the real warriors of the church of this time. It may be pathetic, but that's how it is. And God can work with that, and he always has.
A lot of the people around us are half asleep, and I always am trying to figure out what do we have for a torch to touch to wake them up.
Only action. Only action.
What about the seminarian story? I thought that'd be a good torch.
Oh, you can tell all kinds of stories. They might even watch a movie under a documentary, and it'll be interesting, but it won't change anybody.
But action will, and what kind of action would that be?
Well, right now, what we're doing right now, standing up for the truth. And we have to stand up for the truth. That's why, for instance, one of the actions is eventually, I know it's a difficult choice to make for everybody, but the time has got to come where we can't go to SSPX masses anymore. And that speaks a greater power than anything else. Because you go to the parish hall, you try to help the people and all that, but, it doesn't work. Because what happens is, it's kind of like going to the brothel house and preaching on purity. Eventually they're going to say there's something wrong here. So it isn't going to work. So they have to see that, do you really believe that this is a grave problem? Do you really believe this is poison? Then how come you're eating it? Well, I'm hungry, but it's still poison. All right, well, it must not be that bad a poison, right? Yes. Oh, yeah, so, yeah. So Father Tim is 25 years. I called him up, Father Tim, and, you know, he's got to join us. Father Tim is 25 years, and for me it's 20. And this last week on the, was it, for Father Tim is June 24, for me it's June 25. And now they have, yeah, that's, I don't know. Father Seuss called me up, you know.
How's he doing?
He's completely oblivious to everything. But I might see him next week. He might come down, and because we're like brothers and all that. So he called me up, see him. And he's in New York. He doesn't see any. He's blind. But I told him, I says, okay, explain to me how this is Catholic. He said, I don't see it like you do. But he has no other explanation. I give that explanation when you see the documents given by Bishop Fillet, which are published in the Quorum and published in DG, all the familiar documents. When you show them to any priest, they say, well, yeah. I'm not sure. I don't read it like that. Well, how do you read it? Different. So, okay, well, we used to condemn the new Mass all the time. We wouldn't just say the new Mass is different. We would say precisely, specifically, what's wrong with it. And with the indult, well, what's wrong with the indult? Wrong with the indult is you accept the new Mass. You accept Vatican II, therefore don't go. That's a clear answer. And so what's wrong with the trouble they have with us, that you're condemned for going to resistance Masses and so on, but they claim we have the same position, same theology, we're exactly the same, only you shouldn't go. They don't want to admit that there's a difference. Because if they admit there's a difference in teaching, then that means they changed. They're admitting that they changed. So they lie.
My understanding of our prior here is he said, it's not a sin to go there, but I haven't authorized you to go.
And he has forbidden people to go to school, for instance, if they come here.
Oh, maybe, I don't know.
And the problem is that you have, so, and again, it's a fear type of a thing, and it is good that, they're supposed to stand for the truth, and now they don't want to do that. But Father is, it's good that some priests are, we've had, of course, many priests, like, Father Johnson went nuts, Father Shane Johnson, I don't know why he went nuts, because it's not his character to do that in Australia. We was in seminary together once upon a time, and he threw everybody out. Father Toke went bananas and threw everybody, refused communion to everybody who came to our Mass. Those are two priests in Australia. And, and of course, who Dolan is forbidden to go to Holy Communion in Ridgefield.
Do you think that's the pressure of to understanding that what's going on is possibly true, and they're going to have to leave the society?
It depends on which priests. Each priest, because priests are in different positions. Some priests are really upset about what's going on, and they don't like it. And other priests are kind of happy about what's going on. You got all the different levels.
They want to join wrong.
Yeah. There's some priests excited about it. Right? Father Robinson's excited about it. I can't believe it. Both Father Robinsons that are not related to each other. The American Father Robinson from Kentucky and the Australian Father Robinson that I was in the seminary with. They both are very happy about it. Because they think that once we go in, we're going to be able to go into the churches, we're going to be able to convert, there's going to be more people coming to Mass, it's going to be great. The same exact thinking that they said in 88. Remember in 88, they said once we get approved by Rome, people are going to come flocking to our Masses because they only don't go because they're not approved.
What about them coming to our Masses and then being, we're busy, so we're sending so-and-so to say Mass at your church. What about that? Don't they see the...
I know they're going to do that. They already are, kind of. Like the priest in Ridgefield, what's his name? The new priest, Monsignor, Irish name, whatever his name is. He's not been conditionally ordained. He's not going to be conditionally ordained. It doesn't necessarily mean he didn't want to be. It's just they refuse to conditionally ordain him.
They're not doing that.
They won't do it. So people are upset. One guy says, "How come I'm driving past all these Novus Ordo churches so I can go to Ridgefield to go to a Novus Ordo priest Mass?"
Yeah.
That's what one of the parishioners asked a few weeks ago, or a month ago. And because you need to be conditionally ordained. So, well, I'm not going to be conditionally ordained. And so, even though we say that we know that most likely the new ordination rite is valid, then it's reasonable to doubt it. It's not unreasonable to doubt it. Because the whole new Mass is a mess. The whole new church is a mess. It's not unreasonable to question it. If a guy who's professional, is a professional maker of poisoned fruits, gives you fruit, it's reasonable to ask, is this one of the poisoned ones? It's a reasonable question, right? Yes.
Conditional baptisms even, you know, I mean.
Well, I mean, the baptisms, of course, there's no, in the case of baptism, you know, I baptize, there's no issue. But
We still do conditional rebaptizing when someone joins the church.
oh yeah, that's true when they come from other religions, and even religions where the church considered them valid in the past. And the reason is because because when the Catholic Church collapsed, the Baptists collapsed, the Anglicans collapsed, everybody collapsed. So you can't trust an Anglican to have even done an Anglican baptism. Before Vatican II, they wouldn't have baptized Anglican, they would have only done the profession of faith. But now we got somebody who's baptized after the 60s or 70s Anglican, we conditionally baptize them because Anglicans don't follow the Anglican rules, just like the Catholics don't follow the Catholic rules. And so therefore, because of the change in the past, the Catholic Church would never have baptized an Anglican, only profession of faith and profession of faith and excommunication and confession.
Solang Hertz wrote a book,
Yeah.
and she talked about the communist infiltration of the Catholic Church. And she also said that they infiltrated the Protestant churches. They didn't leave those alone. Stalin ordered them into all the churches, all the Christian churches. So
Yeah.
that seems credible to me.
1 second. The Stalin. We'll say that again. Of course, they infiltrated. AA 1025 talks about that. The infiltration. That's back in the 90s. When did he die? 20s, 30s, 40s?
Stalin?
Stalin, 53.
No, AA 1025.
Oh,
I think 40s or something, right? It's before World War II or during World War
it was
II.
right after or during.
Yeah, they were infiltrating
They were training way before, but I'm talking about the AA 1025 book. The year of the death of that priest was before World War II, wasn't it?
I have it at home. I think.
And Bella died when she converted in the 50s, right?
Yeah.
And she had already been working for, what, 20 years?
23.
And so, but then AA 1025 is, I'm pretty sure, previous to World War II. That's, I mean, that infiltration is, pretty sure he was. When he died in a car accident. It does say the year, doesn't it?
I don't recall.
Doesn't it say the year in that book?
Let's see. Who was
I'm
it?
thinking it's 30s, maybe 40s.
30s. They started the infiltration in the 30s and had mobs.
No, they started way before that.
Well, Stalin's agent.
No. The infiltration predates the life of birth of Stalin. Rampolla has infiltrated the Catholic Church. Seems to be like the Pope, 1903.
Rampolla.
And then, and in fact, I have reason to believe that there are cardinals that were Masons in the 1820s.
Oh.
You don't get a Pope, you don't get a Mason elected Pope unless you've had Masons already for many, many years in high positions in the church.
Didn't we have
And
that?
a Mason was elected Pope in 1903. So you don't do that without lots of preparation. And the popes warned about the Masons in the church throughout the 19th century.
Yeah, I think it goes back even farther because in Spain, didn't Queen Isabella find a whole diocese, the bishop and all the priests were Jews, secretly practicing the Jewish religion at night in their basements?
Could be. It could be part of that. I don't know. Could be. I mean, but remember, there's always been infiltrators in the church. And there always will be. So it's just that the communists are just the next branch of group of infiltrators. That's all. And remember that the preparation that communism is part of is the same general movement of the preparation for the Antichrist that has been going on in a practical way for 700 years, where they've been in an ordered way infiltrating the church and the ideas of Christendom to break it down and prepare the way for the Antichrist. Protestantism is part of that battle. Galileo is part of that battle. The whole scientific movement is part of that battle. The Devotio Moderna, Jansenism is part of that battle. That what was different about the new heretics of the last 500 years, there's a kind of a coordination, and there's a kind of a direction. There's a kind of an order to it. In the first 300 years, heretics popped up here and popped up there, but they weren't really connected with each other. And also, one heresy might be the opposite of the other heresy. But in the case of the last 700 years, the heresies are just the next natural progression. You see,
It's like a
separation of church and state.
It's like a stepped up attack.
Yeah, it's a stepped up attack. It's a progression. There's an order to it. Even though Martin Luther would never have been friends with Immanuel Kant, and they wouldn't have gone out to coffee together, they were steps along the corruption of the church. And the modernists came in at the right time to build on all the heresies and errors that came before. That's the difference of the last 700 years. William of Ockham, and then all the modern rationalism, the Renaissance, the throwback to paganism, the Protestant Revolution, all these things are preparing for the Antichrist.
What's your barometric reading for a time frame for Antichrist? 2 years, 3 years?
No, because you got to have the victory of Mary.
So
I mean, obviously they're ready for the coming of the Antichrist. But just like we were saying in the sermon today about the expectation of the Jews, that the expectation of the people, the Jews, is going to be thwarted. Just like it was back in the book of Maccabees. We're in the time of the Maccabees. Judas Maccabeus came in and smashed Antiochus Epiphanes. And Antiochus Epiphanes was the kind of a type of the Antichrist. And Judas Maccabeus smashed him. And so just like Judas smashed the bad guys 150 years before Christ, so a similar thing will happen now in the history of the church. And that fits the 5th age, 6th age, prophecies, Our Lady of Fatima, Our Lady of La Salette. There has to be a victory first to show the victory of Mary. Then another collapse. And also in this next collapse, it'll be the same people who were part of the glory of the church who will be the enemies of the church. So they'll have a greater maliciousness. If you were there at the glory of the church and you were there in the good old days, and then you then become like the people today, homosexual and broken marriages and wicked in every regard, you're going to have to be a far more malicious character than the average malicious character today. It's going to make a far greater fall. And that's what's going to happen, so that they'll be even more wicked than they are now at the actual time of the Antichrist. And obviously the details won't be known
So
until...
we got it easy.
Yeah. Excuse me?
So we have it easy compared to...
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, obviously, the other thing is you would just think, we've mentioned many times, that Bishop Flay would know that just looking at, even pagans know, looking at the world around you, this can't be fixed by any kind of policy. The world can't be fixed by a policy. It can't be fixed by a regime change. It's going to take a miraculous intervention to fix our world.
would you say that his direction is caused by the board of directors of that trust fund that supplies the society with
Oh,
money?
I don't know.
Ankers, Hoffman, and Croft?
They came later. They came in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. It's all just steps. They're just steps. When you build a church or build any building, there's a step where you got to dig a hole in the ground. Then you got to pour concrete and lay a foundation. Then you got to build the structure of the wall. And you probably don't, if you're looking from a distance, for a long time all you see is a field because you can't see the foundation. Then all of a sudden you see the structure go up. Oh, they started building something. No, they started a long time ago. See, and so this is just the next stage, that's all. Maximilian Krall and all that, that's just a stage. That's just a stage.
And then the branding company, how much influence?
That's also irrelevant. That's just a stage.
Huh.
They were talking about branding back in the 1990s. We need to change the image of the society. That's the purpose of the GREC.
But a marketing company is deciding doctrinal things.
No, they're not.
Oh.
They have already been decided. All they're doing is implementing it. They're not deciding anything.
Huh.
Bishop Flay talked about image change back in 1994. He wanted to change the image of the society since it became superior. It became superior in 94, and ever since then he's been trying to change the image of the society. He's been doing that since he became the superior. He didn't like the old image of the society. A bunch of young, crazy, radical priests running around talking about the coming of the Antichrist and the communists, and the Bilderbergers, the Masons, and the Jews,
And how bad
and
they knew
wild, and building churches and having, doing exactly what we're doing right now, standard SSPX procedure. We've always done. He didn't like that. He wanted more of a balanced, gentle, acceptable, more mainstream approach, non-offensive, non-invasive, whatever.
You got it.
That's what he's been working on since the beginning. And he's that way. That's the way he acts. Bishop Fillet has not changed at all. He's gone in the same direction ever since he became superior. He's never changed. He's never backtracked. But he's a slow mover. And that's a far more effective way to go. Especially when we're dealing with a radical organization. And so that's what he's doing. And so he's a slow mover. But I mean, what's the status of the school year? When does it start? September, right? August or September?
End of August.
When is it?
September, right?
September. Still after Labor Day. Okay. All right. That's good. And then they are going to implement any new rules and regulations this next year. I don't know. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know, because apparently Dave Checkis is flying all over the place, and Mrs. Eddie's flying all over the place, visiting all the schools, Dave Checkis talking about our English curriculum. They're trying to make a united curriculum the whole country. It's like the SSPX version of the Common Core.
It's taking things out of the local control of the parents.
That's right.
Putting it in the control of the federal government.
That's right. So that, and I think the reason why they're doing it, I've been taught this for many years, so that the day comes when they say, pull out the Baltimore Catechism and put in Pierre Vivant and the living, they'll be ready to do it in an instant. Because right now, even now, they're not centralized enough to where if they make any decree on Monday, it'll take a year, 2, 3, 4 years to implement it. So they've got to get the structure in place to be able to move. So that when the captain says, dive, bow planes, and then submarine goes down. Now if the captain says dive, nobody knows what's going to happen. So, so they have to get that structure fully in place. Yeah.
That makes sense, getting rid of all the people that were really true diehard traditional Catholics and replace them with professional.
They've been doing that everywhere.
I know.
Got rid of Tim Eaton in Kansas City. In every parish are doing it. Did it in Ridgefield, got rid of Frank Garso. I mean, everywhere. First they thought, well, Frank is having a problem with Father Coldaddy. Tim had a problem with Father Rostan. This guy had a problem with that father. Well, how come it's every single guy in every parish in every country has a problem? Now, why is that? You see, and why is it that the same character takes over? Like it's a mafia guy in Kansas City. They say he's a mafia guy. You can't work for the society. It's too expensive. Then he gets one of his buddies to do the job for twice the amount of money. And he gets away with it. It's no problem.
I was talking to a mom in Minnesota, and she said that they're closing the upper school.
Oh yes, they are. I forgot about that. Yep, they're closing the upper school, and they're going to be shutting down schools all throughout the society. They're going to be doing that.
How's the Legion of Mary?
It's a matter of time before they shut this one down. Every year it's hanging on the edge of a knife. It's a matter
A
of
lot of
time.
families are pulling out.
What?
A lot of families are pulling
The
out.
thing is, Doris,
Yeah.
I know that in Post Falls they're losing 3 or 4 families, and St. Mary's they lose a lot of families now. In the last few years they've lost a lot of families because they've just changed the whole spirit of the, it's all this professional, computerized. They're putting computers in St. Mary's.
Computers, that's like Maximilian told me, said use the trade. If the computer would be fine, if the philosophy behind what we were doing.
No, not really, because with the computer, it has a different way of your brain. It affects the way you think, right? It affects the way you think.
Our Lady Health Christians has computers.
Yeah, I know everybody does now, but of course I don't know if they're teaching with them. They're not teaching with them yet, are they?
I used them when I was.
Yeah,
They
they've
were
got
teaching us how
computers in
to
the
type. They
school.
were teaching us all sorts of stuff.
They're letting you brats type crap?
Don't sugarcoat it, Father. Tell it like
What? That should not be tolerated. What? That
you,
comes
Ed.
later that, they can't do that. What?
But use the tools of your time. But use them
No, because remember, there's a certain nature of, you've got to, in school you got to teach a child how to think, right? And the problem with the whole way the computer operates It goes against the way the human mind operates. So you cannot use that for teaching.
Like just for resources and stuff like that.
No, the only thing you could kind of do is, what do you call it? What? Yeah, a few looking up things and maybe watching some video or something. That's about it. But you cannot use it.
You know, for everything.
Yeah. No, now they're trying to. They're changing it. They're changing that now. They're going to be, because now they want to be able to show that we are a professional modern school. That's the idea. We're becoming an elitist school. We're going to be the yuppie school for the rich people, and and that's kind of the mentality. And the spirit of faith has gone out. It has. It just has. We used to be doing whatever it takes to get those kids in heaven. That was pretty much the focus. And now that focus has been gone. That focus has been gone for years now. It's been gone for years.
Question, Father, one more. Legion of Mary. Are they supporting it or are they trying to get rid of it?
Trying to get rid of it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The third order's just been installed too. I mean, seriously, the third order, in the 40-year history, they didn't even mention it.
Oh, is that right?
Not
That's
a word.
unusual.
Not a word.
I do know that they are stalling those things, and again, each little thing. It's all part of that. The 4 marks catechism. First, take away apostolic. It's all part of taking away the holy. That's the holy phase. Get rid of the spiritual side of things. The Legion of Mary, I mean, Father Olivier did a great thing of getting it going, and there was a lot of opposition, but a lot of good came from it. And now they're just letting it die. They're not officially. They're letting it die in Australia. They're letting it die in the Philippines. They're letting it die here. Here especially, they're letting it die. And so it's just. In fact, Father said something about the Legion of Mary is to help the priest do the
Altar.
Yeah, the altar, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the Fidelity does here.
Yeah. Which of course there is already an altar rosary society which does that. But not the Legion of Mary type of thing. So
Legion of Mary did a lot of what you were talking about, there, going out and visiting.
that's what they're supposed to do. Go out and visit.
Let's take that from
Dig it up. That's all. Yeah.
Thank you so much.